So in this section, we're going to look at the major threats to biodiversity, and they are habitat loss, invasive species, overharvesting, and pollution, and finally, climate change. So habitat loss is a major problem, and we alter natural habitats. And we do this in order to build our cities, in order to grow crops. We take grassland and make it farmland. We clear cut timber and change forests. We use close to 50% of the land on Earth is used in agriculture, urban development, forestry, or mining. We've also altered the rivers. And when we alter rivers by building dams, irrigating fields, draining wetlands, we change the environment and we make it difficult for other species to survive. So that's number one. Number two, invasive species. And we actually have a very good example of an invasive species right here in Kentucky. The Asian carp is an invasive species. It was brought in to clean the fish farms of algae, weeds, and parasites back in the 1970s. The fish escaped and they grow very quickly. They had no natural predators, and so they are spreading, and when they move into an area, they kill off the native species, outcompete them in some cases, and in other cases they muck up the bottoms of the lakes and rivers and make them murky, and so the other fish don't do well. At the moment, they're trying to keep them out of the Great Lakes, because if they get into the Great Lakes and outcompete the fish there, it'll be a real problem. This is a picture of a brown snake. It was brought to Guam. Guam originally had 13 different species of birds, but it had no snakes. And this guy, or one of his relatives, stowed away in an airplane and landed in Guam. And now 6 of the native bird species are extirpated, and 1 is now extinct. The other birds have been taken into protective custody. On Guam, the snake had no natural predators, and it was able to prey on the unwary birds. The birds were not aware even that the snake was a threat, so it made it really easy for it to kill birds. Overharvesting is taking more individuals than can be replaced. This happens with trees like mahogany and rosewood. It also happens with animals like tigers, whales, rhinoceroses, Galapagos turtles, and many fish. I believe there are only 2 white rhinos still in existence. They're both females. So that will be the end of that line very soon. Pollution also hurts biodiversity. In a process called biological magnification, top-level consumers are most severely damaged by toxic compounds. These toxic compounds include PCBs, DDT, and mercury. And this is a depiction. In this case, the PCB starts in phytoplankton at a fairly low level of 0.025 parts per million. The zooplankton eat the phytoplankton and have an increased level as they concentrate the amount of the PCB. The herring, or the smelt here, eat the zooplankton, and they have an even higher level of 1.04. The lake trout that eat the smelt have a level of 4.8. And finally, the gulls eat the lake trout, and they end up with eggs that have 124 parts per million. So as they go up the food chain, these chemicals are concentrated. Currently, the EPA tells us that we are to avoid eating these fish because of the high mercury content. And we have best choices, which we're supposed to eat 2 to 3 times, and good choices. So we're only supposed to eat albacore tuna, which I like to have, only once a week, because if we eat it too much, we might get too much mercury. In particular, they tell pregnant women to avoid even the good choices. They're not supposed to eat even the ones that you could have once a week because of this problem of concentrating mercury. Now, the ones we mentioned, global climate change is likely to be the most serious. For biodiversity loss. And it's graphs like this that are just hard to deny. This is a difference in temperature, and we have these cold days from 1880 to 1940-ish, and then it gets a little warmer, but we still have warm years and cold years. In the last 10 hottest years have occurred here, 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 here. They're all right in the recent past. The Earth is getting warmer. Okay. And it's not getting warmer in an even sort of way. What we find is that we have very warm temperatures at the pole. The North Pole has an increase of maybe 4 degrees, and just below the North Pole we've got a change of 1 to 2 degrees. So global temperature on average has risen 1 degree Celsius since 1900. The largest increase has been in the northern part of the northern hemisphere. Much of this extra heat is stored in the oceans. If you know anything about things get warmer, they increase in volume. And so that contributes to the rising sea level along with melting ice. The warming has also led to extreme weather patterns. We have torrential downpours, stronger hurricanes, and heat waves that are much worse than they were in the past.